Everybody, thanks for joining me on the Ant Panda channel with this latest video. So the question is, what does Silent Hill look like from Eddie's perspective? So the other night, I was driving in my car and a thought had occurred to me. It's the strangest of thoughts. It's the littlest of things. And I've been playing Silent Hill 2 Remake for a while now, so I've been digging deep in a lot of these. But the thing that struck out to me, the thing that really made me think about diving into this a bit more was, with Eddie, is why does he have strawberry ice cream in a movie theater? Why wasn't it popcorn? Why wasn't it a Slurpee? And if the ice cream didn't come from the theater, where did it come from? So I started thinking about a number of these related things, his experience in Silent Hill. And, I just had other questions like, was he always mad? What was his experience like? Why does he have cold breath in every scene that we've seen him in? And why didn't, or any of the other Pyramid Head or other monsters in town take care of him? So I wanted to take a bit more of a look and a little bit of a deep dive into what Eddie's journey would be in Silent Hill. The story, like I mentioned, has a lot of symbolism, interpretation, and, it's kind of on purpose, so it's just fun to kind of look into these things. So let's take a look and see the different things, because as you know, this town has called you. So we first run into Eddie into the apartments. This is the first scene that's in the game. After finding, obviously, a guy that has passed in the fridge, with Eddie in the bathroom, throwing up. What's peculiar is the way that Eddie, and you watch the scene, how he intros himself, mentioning, that the guy was obviously done before he got there. And he implied that, with kind of his dialogue with James, that he was just running in, implying that the monsters were after him. So it's an interesting enough scene, also because of the fact that we see the cold breath there at the first part of it, while James doesn't have any cold breath. So it's the first sign that many folks point out that's very peculiar about it. And I mean, it's the same thing with all of his scenes. He's always got cold breath. To me, when I look at the scene and, I start reading through it and looking at the signs, Eddie's version, I feel like, must be a very cold, dark, frozen type of environment, not the rusty, heated type of angry version of Silent Hill that James has. And the rest of the dialogue of the scene, Eddie seems to have a separate type of journey that seems different for how he gets into town. And the way that he talks to James also is interesting to me, because when you play the original Silent Hill, Eddie just is one-sided. You don't see very deep. But when you look at the scene in the remake, he seems very genuine. And he seems very scared and freaked out, which, I mean, who wouldn't, being in Silent Hill itself? And he's lacking the confidence, and really he doesn't display any weapons, and he's very fearful of what it is that he is experiencing. I mean, you could even go to say this could have been James's opportunity to reach out, where James could have literally saved somebody, especially Eddie. As we continue moving through the game, time that James runs into Eddie is he ends up running into him in the movie theater with Laura. James finds Eddie sitting in the theater with some dialogue, watching a blank screen, eating what at first looks like a bucket of popcorn, but this is no popcorn. It's ice cream. And after seeing the scene myself, I kind of ask myself, where would Eddie get a bucket of ice cream? There isn't a freezer. There's not an ice box or anything that you find when you're actually exploring the movie theater whatsoever. Where did he get the ice cream? Where did he bring it from? Was it the prison cafeteria that maybe he's frequently gone to at this point, another location? The scene itself is interesting because it shows a bit different with Eddie in the last scene. Eddie's a bit more sure of himself. Eddie just kind of gives this hesitation, or almost as though he didn't really care too much on who he's encountering at this point, but it's James. Eddie must be going through some dramatic situation, and obviously he's very distant until as a method of protection for his mental state. But it isn't until James is mentioning his appetites returns a bit more of attention from Eddie to James. Eddie's taking a simple statement of observation from James, who I believe was intent is just to indicate that he's over his throwing up. Eddie itself took it as an start of madness for him. As he further along, of course, in the discussion, Eddie seems to give off this bigger indication of offense when James asks him if he's coming along, if he's going to accompany him. And if you look at Eddie's face and the way that they kind of, captured that, it's interesting because it gives off the impression that it's too late now, James. Eddie experienced something or went through this whole ordeal, overachieved his sense of, defense and the way that he's overcome these fears and issues that he's experienced. It makes me feel as though when you look at that and you look at kind of the way that he's like put off by it, it makes you think that, hey, I've already overcome all this. I don't need your help anymore. No longer needs companionship from James. He doesn't need any help. Gives off this impression that he's just going to achieve this way more further over than James will. With Eddie's experience of his cold, horrible, hellish experience, obviously these monsters might be still fighting him, but he's gaining kind of that confidence, and he must have caught even a glimpse of Pyramid Head, because you can feel as though he still feels maybe a little bit of remorse, maybe a little bit of guilt, as he mentioned that when he came into Silent Hill, he was on the run from the cops, so maybe he's still dealing with crime and kind of the results of that. His sanity is still there with what's left of it. Well, in the last few scenes with Eddie that we can summarize, James' experience running into Eddie with the prison cafe. At this point, with the way that he's talking to himself, with the way that he's waving around his little revolver found, almost like he's fully succumbed to the way of the world when it comes to Silent Hill and the personal hells that he's dealing with, where he's literally there taking out anyone that he feels is bullying him. Or it's safe to say with the dialogue that Eddie has, that his body language, the different outbursts that he really shows, he doesn't feel any remorse anymore. He's just kind of done with it. He knows how to handle it, and he's been handling it by obviously taking care of people with the revolver that he has, and he's built up that confidence and lost all sense of humanity at this point. There's a good chance within part of this journey at this point that the monsters and even the Pyramid Head is no longer a threat to him. They probably don't even follow him, don't even care that he's there. It's almost like going to a Borg ship and all the Borg just completely ignoring you. And he just doesn't feel like he needs to be punished anymore in the world that he's in. So he's versus the world and looking to live out the rest of his life, removing anyone he deems no longer fit, anyone that he feels that is laughing, talking, or feeling that everybody is conspired against him. He's going to take care of at this point. Other signs of it kind of point to, with the number of bodies that are starting to stack, James kind of being in this time loop. Theory is that since James in his time loop that he is, and the bodies continue to stack there, if you look in the cold freezers, they all look very similar to James' pants and jacket, and even kind of the hairstyle. There's a few pieces of dialogue that's very vague, specifically descriptive enough to know whether or not Eddie might be running into James multiple times, killing him over and over again. But he does indicate that he keeps running into different folks, taking them out one by one. It would be quite an interesting theory if this is canon, where literally that's all Eddie's been doing, is literally killing previous versions of James over and over again in kind of his personal hell, almost like a way to drive his insanity even further as he continues to take care of these guys and they keep coming back, almost like they're talking down and laughing. And this in and of itself is just what builds his confidence over and over again as he continues to take care of this as personal cold freezer hell of Silent Hill. If you're still here, thank you so much. This is an interesting storyline that I continue to enjoy. Please continue to follow me and watch me on my Twitch streams as I'm doing some of the New Game Plus of Silent Hill content for Silent Hill 2. Hit that like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.